Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 17 of spiritual healthcare. I am, of course, live again bright and early this morning. I hope everybody is doing amazing. I'm starting a little bit early today just to let people log on, because some people have been saying that they're getting their live notifications a little bit late, which, I mean, I'm sure is a symptom of the bogged down internet right now. So we kind of have to just roll with it and keep going the way we are. So it is good to be back and be here. I hope everybody had a really great weekend and a really great Sunday. I celebrated a really special birthday to me yesterday, which was really fun. And that was pretty cool. So I don't know what my birthday is going to look like, because I mean, ultimately my birthday's in December, so we might be on, hopefully we're not going to still be on lockdown in December. So yeah, anyway, I am excited today because I've got some news for you guys, which I'm really excited about, as well as some pretty cool processes. I'm really looking forward to delving into this, and delving into a new area of sort of psychology and paranormal research this morning as well. So I'm excited about that. Good morning, Des. Good morning, Shadow. Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, everybody who's watching. It is so good to see everybody. Glad you guys could make it this morning. As I say, we've got some new areas of this that of the paranormal that we're gonna kind of be delving into today, which is pretty cool, or a new aspect, I should say, of what we've been talking about. We've got some really great points, some really great questions that we're going to tackle as well. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please throw them in the chat. If I don't hit them today, then I always go back on the feed and grab them, and then I'll do them the next morning. So if you guys have questions or anything like that, throw them in the feed, and I will grab them. I'll get to them. So I wanted to talk today a bit about what ends up bringing some of, we read and hear about sort of the negative side of hauntings and stuff like that, and I want to be able to delve into some of what creates this phenomenon a little bit more, because we talk about that negative end of the emotional scale, and we talk about, all of those things. Well, what does that mean, right? Like, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean that you're just, a miserable person? Like, do you mean, like, what is that, right? So I want to talk a little bit more about that today, just to clarify what that entails for a lot of people, and give you guys some examples. Hello to everybody logging in right now. It's good to see you all. Please say hi in the chat. I was just saying to everybody, if you've got questions or anything like that, please throw them in the chat box. If I don't get them today, then I will get them tomorrow or the next day, because I always go back on the feed. So it's good to see everyone. And as I say, I want to get into this other angle of what can create these sort of negative experiences for people. And it actually, the idea came to me with a question in the feed yesterday that I didn't get to, and that was from Shadow, and she was asking, so are there a few examples of this type of situation occurring to persons who are positive emotionally? And I think when we get into these hauntings that whether they be something that's violent or something that's really creepy or anything like that, we have to remember that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're, a miserable person, or you're, negative all the time or anything like that. But one aspect of this that we haven't talked about, which can influence paranormal activity quite heavily, is trauma. Okay, so people that have been through and experienced trauma, and that unresolved healing, that can end up, that mental energy can really start to bleed into the world that we live in, and into the world that we're experiencing and perceiving. I think one of the things that we don't realize is that when we don't heal something, when we've got something going on that is either traumatic or has been unresolved, or we've got unresolved emotions or anger or anything like that, it doesn't stay stuffed. Okay, we like to think it does. We like to compartmentalize and think that it's over there, but that's not the reality of it. The reality of it is that it begins to bleed into our lives in really weird ways, in really weird places. With some people, it can be, it can be substance abuse, and some people it can be what seems like a run of bad luck or bad relationships. Sometimes it can be a financial crisis. It can be a whole bunch of different things, but trauma has a funny way of expressing itself in different ways. So it's not necessarily that you're a negative person, but you might have had something that is just sort of festering there that is kind of unresolved, and it's something we have to start examining and paying attention to, which is one of the reasons why I think being able to have this time in quarantine and have this time to self-reflect is just so important for society right now. We have the ability right now to sort of turn everything off, turn the world off, because everybody's taking a break, nobody's out, and to be able to sit and start looking at some of this unhealed crap that we've got going on, because collectively as a people, something is not right here. So we have to start looking at that as individuals, because we know we can't fix everybody else, right? We talked about that yesterday. This isn't about fixing other people. This is about going inwards and doing your own work and putting that out there. So while some people have this stuff going on and presenting itself in arenas like, as I say, alcoholism or bad relationships or all of these different things, sometimes what will happen is that we get this expressed as a negative haunting as well. So it's not necessarily that people are a miserable person to be around and therefore this is what happens to them. It's just sometimes we don't like to address what it is that's really, really going on that really needs healing. And we cover that up in all sorts of ways, right? We've been doing that as a society so much before the pandemic happened, where we went to work every day and stuffed our emotions into our work. We were super busy. We were trying to ignore all this stuff. We were trying to ignore the toxicity in our space. We were trying to ignore all of this through just jamming our heads into work or drama or something like that. And this pandemic has had the effect where we've had to take a step back, we've had to plug in, and a lot of people I think are realizing just how toxic a lot of these situations actually were. And people that are dealing with hauntings, they're in the same boat here, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to start this feed up. And spiritual health care, because so many people right now are realizing there's nowhere to hide from it anymore. They have to go home. They have to deal with what's happening. And some people are having a relatively easy time with that, and other people are having a really hard time with it. But either way, being able to deconstruct the situation and realize where that goop is, where that dirt and the grime and the grit is really important to be able to rebuild something that's healthy. So I like to use the example all the time with my clients where you've got a glass of water and you've got dirt sitting in the bottom of the water, right? And you start to pour more water in, and guess what happens to that dirt? All the sediment starts to come up. And that's one of the things that I've been observing that this pandemic has done, which is it's poured that water in, and all of a sudden all of that sediment has come to the surface, and we're having to deal with it. So when it comes to clients and hauntings, and especially negative, like the negative side of things, those incidents that are happening around them, it's very much an indicator of stuff that they've got going on. And I'll tell you guys a story, an example of this. So I had a client actually in Toronto, and she had phoned, and the place was really chaotic. They had a very young son who was about 3, and he was getting regularly attacked. Him and his mom were getting regularly attacked. The entity was very protective over the little boy's bedroom, and it ended up, long story short, in a bit of a battle between the husband, the child, and the mom, where they had a tug of war between the entity and the husband, with the kid in the middle. And it got to the point where by the time they phoned me, they were actually sleeping in their car. It was so bad, they didn't know what to do with that. But what was interesting about this was that the husband himself did not have the level of problem that the mom was having. Okay, and kids are always very perceptive about what's going on with their parents. So, if a parent's going through trauma, guess what? Your kid's going to line up with that too, often. So, anyway, what was interesting about this was that when we got talking with the mom, she said for the longest time, nothing's wrong, my life has been great, my family's great, I don't understand what the problem is, everything's positive. And I knew that couldn't be the case because there was so much chaos and it was so intense, everything that was going on. So here was the thing. She finally divulged to us after a bit of conversation that she had actually just left a very abusive relationship. Very abusive, like within the last number of years. And she'd gotten with this great guy who was fantastic, who was, he was a really awesome person. But guess what? Guess what she didn't heal up? So all of that trauma, when we started to ask her, we said, what did you do? What did you do to heal that? How have you stopped projecting this energy in the space if you haven't healed that stuff up? And she's like, oh, no, I don't do, I don't go to therapy, and I just don't think about it, and I don't process that. And immediately I told her to make a list of the things that had been going on in the house, so what she'd been experiencing with this entity versus what she'd experienced with this ex-husband. And interestingly enough, the phenomena was almost a direct mirror of the trauma that she had just experienced. So she had gone from one situation right into another. It just looked a little bit different. So that's the one thing I want to get across to people, is it's not necessarily that you're just some miserable person that's dealing with something negative. It's just, we have to start paying attention to the fact that the trauma that we're experiencing, that we're stuffing, is gonna come out in situations where we've got a pandemic going on, or a haunting, like a negative haunting going on, or anything like that. We start to get these indicators. So we have to take a look at this pandemic and start to realize that this is we're getting a lot of love poured onto a lot of dirt, and it's all coming to the surface, and it's allowing us the opportunity, if we want it, to be able to rebuild. And rebuild from a place of authenticity rather than stuffing all this crap away and pretending that it doesn't exist. So thank you, Shadow, for that, because it was an awesome question. She's got another one here as well, which I really thought was brilliant, along the same lines. And she says, I know we've discussed at some length that personal vibrations can play a part in an individual's experience. But in instances where hauntings or ghosts are trying to scare or get people out of a particular space, wouldn't it be counterproductive? Also, as if people are too scared to be in that space, there's no point in a spirit remaining there. Is there? Really, really good question. Shadow, I love your questions. They're so good. Hello, Cal. So yeah, when we start to look at situations like this, and we start to look at these negative hauntings that crop up every once in a while that we hear about, we have to start looking at these not in the same way as this is being inflicted on us. As I say, we have to start realizing that, well, wait a minute, there's something that we're doing that's playing a role here. We have to start paying attention to these things. So, our personal, is our personal energy and our thought process and our perception playing a role? Yeah, absolutely. When they're trying to scare people or get people out of a particular space, is it counterproductive? Not necessarily, not if you've got something that is protective over a location or something like that. I think there's this misconception that, these energies kind of feed, I hear this word a lot, this feed off of people. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think a lot of the time how we are projecting and focusing into a space, the mindset with which we come into that space, all absolutely plays a role. And I think it's something that we have to start to pay attention to. Is there a point in something remaining in a location, or an intelligence remaining in a location when it wants to be alone? It kind of makes sense that, if you've got something that is protective over a place, that it doesn't want interference. And the damn thing is, we're seeing that kind of reflected back in nature right now as well with this pandemic going on. You know, we see, you know, pollution clearing up and nature sort of, you know, refilling gaps where it wasn't before and things like that. So, you know, I think there's a lot of nature right now that is enjoying the absence of people. And I'm sure, you know, in the spirit world and whatnot as well, I think sometimes, you know, that break of chaos, especially for entities like that, might be welcome as well. So this can be a good thing, you guys. So I wanted to grab our reading today because I want to come back to this wonderful book, which is Faith in the Valley. It's by Iyanla Vanzant, and I want to read a little bit from here because I think it is really prevalent to what we're talking about today. I think it's prevalent to what's going on right now. And I hope you guys find this of use as well. Even on the spiritual path, things are not always going to be rosy. There will be difficult situations and people, bad days and hard times along the way. You have moments, days, sometimes weeks when you will doubt yourself. And there will be times when you doubt the power of spirit. You may get sick, you may feel inadequate, you may lose things or people you hold dear. Just know it is all a part of the process. For some reason, we think that spirit will miraculously change everything for the better. Eventually it may. However, the search for spirit, the quest for truth, the desire for peace usually rips the foundation of our lives apart. There are thoughts, feelings, habits, and conditions we have embraced which are grounded in fear, anger, judgment, and ego. The farther we move along the path towards a more spiritual life, the more we must be willing to release. Our trying times and major challenges are a process of that release. And I think that is so true in this case. As I say, we've been talking a bit about, you know, the idea of sort of turning back inwards and being able to clean some of this stuff up. I had an experience a number of years back where somebody who I'd known for a really long time, really just didn't really come out of nowhere and tried to break me down, but he really did some major damage, and I couldn't figure out why in the hell this was happening. But what was really interesting was that during that time period, I had all these doors closing, like all of them. It was just, I couldn't move my business forward. I couldn't get money coming in. I couldn't get nothing. Hi, Dawn. Good morning. I couldn't get anything moving. No matter what opportunity I went for, the door would shut. I'd go to, do something online and, the sites would crash. There was nothing I could do. There was nowhere I could move, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. When, interestingly enough, once he made the exit out and I decided, I was like, I'm done. No more, no way. This isn't happening anymore. You're out. Guess what happened? All of a sudden, stuff started to open up again. The right people started to phone. The opportunities would show up that I didn't even know were there. I didn't have access to them in the state of mind that I was in, and suddenly that opened up. Suddenly, all the doors that I thought were shut, hey, wait a minute, there's another door that I didn't even see. So there's all of these things that started to show up, and my life began to change. Everything began to turn around. It was incredible. I will never take that message and that opportunity for granted again. So no matter how bottlenecked we think we are right now, there is a reason. There's a reason. And we have to start looking at those toxic parts of what's going on in our experience and be willing to release it, be willing to get rid of it, and be willing to start, and sometimes actually start from the ground up, which I've had to do in my life a number of times now. But this is an opportunity, and if we can see it like that, then we're going to be in good shape. So wanted to give you guys a process today that is actually tied in with the usual activity or to-do that I give you guys. Yesterday we talked about building a sort of a safe space in the house that's like away from the kids and away from everything, so that you guys can do your journal work, right, that I've been recommending, and that you guys have a place to decompress from all of this. And what I'm going to recommend you guys look up today is something called tapping. It is a really neat process, that is designed both psychologically and spiritually, really, to both relieve anxiety. It feels like you're moving crap, really, like through your body, like energetic crap through your body. It's really interesting. But there's different points. There's different tapping points. This exercise is given by psychologists quite frequently to people with anxiety and things like that, because it's also psychological distraction, okay? And there's different points where you tap and will give an affirmation as you're doing this. Now, when you do this, you want to be in that space that you consider quiet or relaxed or safe or anything like that. And there's lots of guided tapping exercises, actually from Ayanla, if you're interested. Okay, if you're liking her stuff that I'm reading right now, she's got quite a few of them on YouTube, which are great, and you can download them all over the place. So the link and the to-do that I'm going to give you guys, that's your process, your to-do. There is a fellow by the name of Nick Ortner. Nick Ortner is probably one of the leading tapping experts like on the planet right now. And he has got a ton of free content out there. And so I'm going to be posting the link to that on the Entity Seeker page. So you guys can check that out. He's got 21 free meditations with this process in it. So I'm going to send that, I'm going to give that to you guys online so you can try it out. And I thought for the longest time that it was kind of like, it seemed weird to me. I was like, this is a little out there, which is something for me. But I've implemented it a number of times now, and it's a regular part of my processes. And I find it works incredibly well. I find like anxiety is lessened, and stuff starts to, again, it puts you in that state of least resistance where stuff starts to happen and open up. So I find it works greatly, so I want to pass it on to you guys. There is a book that has a few more processes like that in it, also by Iyanla Vanzant, called Get Over It. It's a really great little book. So I'll put all those links up on Entity Seeker as well. So it's really cool. Oh man, William, that is super awesome. Thank you so much. That means that absolutely means a ton to me. Thank you guys. So I also wanted to touch on a couple of things. Some news before I forget. So I'm going to now, because thanks to one of you guys, actually, Brian, he messaged me last night and showed me how to get all of the spiritual healthcare classes onto YouTube. So I'm going to be uploading those onto YouTube today, so you guys can have access to them and you can replay them and you can do all of that kind of thing. So, thank you so much, Serena. That makes me so happy. You've no idea, you guys. Like, that makes my whole day. I will be on cloud 9 all day just because of everybody on here, like, and your words and all of that. You guys, thank you. So those will be on YouTube, on the Entity Seeker YouTube channel later on today. If you guys haven't subscribed to that, it's just youtube.com/entityseeker. It's pretty simple. So you guys can subscribe and find that there. So all of these will be on there, which is kind of nice, because I was losing track of them too. So that being said, one more point, which was food banks. My friend on Twitter, Vincent D'Onofrio, has been putting out calls to the food banks recently, and I want to just affirm what he has been saying on Facebook, and just say to you guys, like, if you have extra food, if you've got the ability to donate, please do so. Food banks are really running low right now, and there's not a shortage of food, because companies and stuff are adjusting to it, but the food banks aren't really getting donated to. So, if you've bought extra and you don't need it, or you think it's going to go bad before you can use it or something like that, please give it to the food banks. It's really important. So, our affirmations, we got to do them. All right. Everybody take a breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to gently, eventually, release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it's reversing its course right now. There's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do. Well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body. My cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe. And I can do that easily. Everyone take a breath. Thank you guys again so much. You guys make my day so much brighter every morning. I love to be able to do this with you guys. And I will see you right back here tomorrow morning on Spiritual Healthcare. As always, please spread the word. Let people know that they can come and tune in and do that. And oh, that's awesome, Ursula. That's awesome. Yeah, repeat this stuff, you guys. It makes a huge difference. It really does. Our brains respond and our bodies respond to that repetition. So please do that, because it's really a big deal. We look where we want to go, as we do in, when we're driving, right? If we're looking at the cone on the side of the road when we're driving, we steer into it, right? So we have to look where we want to go for so many different reasons, and put the energy and momentum into that. So you guys have an amazing afternoon, and go work on your spaces and your journaling, and check out the tapping solution. I will be posting that here as I get offline. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Bye.